room function.
And I did just start the recording.
I saw that. Yes, thank you. That if you have a question, to put it in the chat room, and Darlene will keep an eye on that, and interrupt me, please, so that we can talk about the question. Okay, so let her flicker, Darlene. Bring up the PowerPoint. This PowerPoint is on the Department of State website. If at some point you want to go, but Carol Discani, another member of our league, who is excellent, has modified this slightly. So what you see online may be a little different than that, but the information is still there. So if you need a refresher, or you're talking somebody else into joining us, they can go through this. So move on to the next page, Darlene. The purpose is, as they state, to help you understand and answer any questions you may have about registering people to vote. And it's been compiled using the League and a couple of other organizations who do a lot of this. And we're going to know the rules. So move on to the next screen. You don't need the League. You can go out anywhere you want to and register people to vote, but they do have some rules that if you're a 501c3, you can't try to tell them register as a libertarian. We are not a 501c3. There is a portion of the League that is a 501c3. Those are the kind of organizations that when you give money to them, you can take a tax deduction. We go on the basis that we are nonpartisan. We don't support any political party or any political candidate. So we will never, or we should never, tell you how you should register. And I have been at the table where people, particularly high school students, well, you have to check one of the boxes. Which should I choose? And I said, I'm sorry, I can't tell you that. If you want to take the application with you, Google it, find out how the Republicans, the Democrats, and all of those, and see which fits you, and then mail it in. And I go through that with them. But you need to make the decision on your own. We don't direct them any which way. So the next screen then. Our purpose is to help people and to remain nonpartisan. If you have not seen the form, I'm sure Darlene can get you some, or you can go online and look at it so that you understand the form. And the really important part is, if you complete any part of that form, you must fill out the section, I think it's 10, on there saying you did help complete this. It can sometimes be difficult because it appears they're struggling, and you just want to say, give me the paper, I'll fill it out for you. It's a lot faster. But that, if you do that, and you certainly can, or if they ask you to, you need to sign that you did help them do that. We go on to eligibility. I'm sure you know this. They have to be a citizen of the United States at least 30 days prior to the election. And we do nationalization. We attend naturalization. Thank you. Events at the courthouse. And they used to have them too close to election day, and they've now moved it so that we can register people as soon as they've been naturalized as citizens. They also have to be a resident for Pennsylvania 30 days prior to the election, and they must be 18 years old on or before the date of the election. And this is really important, and another screen may talk about this. If you're doing high schools, if their birthday is, election day is November 8th. If their birthday is November 8th, they can register to vote, even though right when they fill out the form, they're only 17. because they will be 18 by election day. So that's an important thing to understand if you were not aware, that as long as they were 18 by election day. You need to use your home address, and there are some exceptions that we'll talk about later. If you do not have a permanent address, because we have done an event, they used to have a thing at the farm show for homeless people, and we were there to register. They had other services that they could avail themselves of, but these people homeless must have a place that, whether it's the Bethesda mission that they visit every once in a while, or it's some other church, some kind of thing like that, they can, but they need a permanent address, no post office boxes when they fill out the application form. It needs to be the permanent address. Go on, Darlene.
Okay.
Deadlines. This changed with Act 77 back in 2019. Used to be 30 days prior to election. They've changed it now to 15 days. So the deadline now for registering to vote is October 24th, 15 days before election day. They must be postmarked by that deadline or taken into the office. Online registrations have until midnight on October 24th to submit the information. Hand delivered, obviously the office closes at 5 o'clock, so you need to get there. Go ahead. You can move past that screen. Voters can register online. There is the place, and I think we still have little business cards that we have at our tables, Darlene, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
That have that website, that people can go to the website. Oh, we have a QR code too.
We do. Now,
Oh,
we've been just putting that on the table, and people can take a picture of it with their telephone.
Wonderful, wonderful. They feel that registering online reduces errors in data entry, because obviously if you fill out a piece of paper, somebody at the office has to key that into their computer system. And online applications are submitted immediately, so the processing time is less. It saves on postage or a trip to the office. And people who provide an email address can get registration status updates from the state website along the way. So, and with our younger people, this is a much preferable kind of thing. We have tried using it at least one school that I did voter registration. The kids were there and they had their little iPads or whatever, and they had trouble getting in and doing that. So you know, we have not tried using computers. We still fill out the pieces of paper and take them. I don't know if we're going to change that mode somewhere along the time. And if you do outside do this, you'll need a device, internet access, and they're going to, again, as they would with a piece of paper, need their driver's license number or the last 4 digits of their social security number. And then you will need a way to upload photos of the applicant's signature. This is a real big issue if you do online, because if you're filling out paper, you've obviously signed it and they can compare your signature to your driver's license. But if you're doing it this way, if they do it at home or they do it with you, they need to be able to take a photo of their signature. They're saying in case they don't have any of the above numbers, but I thought it was also a need if, even, you know, they don't need a signature, Darlene, you're shaking your head no.
Well, from their driver's license.
They take it off of their driver's license and they assume that that is you, okay. So a lot of these issues are why we don't do computer voter registration. Cost effective, easy to distribute, yes, poor handwriting, failure to complete all the fields, but that's why you're there. That as they complete it, you make sure before they leave the table that they have filled in everything that they needed to. And if they prefer paper, they can download it from that same website, get a printed out copy, fill it out and mail it in or deliver it to the election office. Go on, Darlene. Thank you. So again, take your time, write clearly. You need to use a pen. Phone number field says it's optional, but I always recommend that people put it there because if there is a concern at the election bureau, they have a phone number and they can call you and say, you know, there's a problem. And again, you need your driver's license or last four numbers of the SSN. And if you move, there is another field that you have to fill out to put in your previous address. If you've moved within, I'm not sure the time period, Darlene. If you've moved since your last registration.
Yeah.
And then you have to sign and date it. There is a paragraph that they are to read that explains to them by signing this, they are swearing that all the information on the form is true and they haven't fudged anything. And there have been stories that I've heard of people who did not be truthful on the form and they were arrested because this is a federal form. And if you're lying to the government, well, this is a Pennsylvania form, but if you're lying to the government, you're in kind of deep trouble and you may lose your right to vote for a long period of time. Go on.
It's hard to get students to actually read the thing.
Yes, they normally do.
To force them to do so.
Or at least explain to them that, you know, that this is what it's saying. It's saying you swear that you have not said something wrong. They are submitted to the county election office online. Voter registrations get submitted automatically. Paper registration forms take time to process, and if you're submitting a large number, get it there as soon as possible. So if you do Capona this weekend, hopefully the Tuesday after Capona, someone's going to take them to the county election office or mail them to the county election office. When I register people, I usually tell them that in 2 to 3 weeks, they ought to get their voter registration card in the mail. And if they don't, they can certainly call and bug the county election office. County election office loves me for that. Go on, Darlene. This is unimportant. Well, if you wish to on your own set up, you know, you pick a date, figure out where you're going to do this kind of event. So this is, you know, if you're setting up your own, which you certainly can. Go on. Supplies, I'm not sure what that's going to say. Move to the next screen. Again, we will supply you with everything you need the day that you are working. So don't worry about that. So go on, Darlene. And this is what we're trying to do tonight. Help you know what to do. How to fill out the voter form, what is permitted and prohibited, how to follow up on their registrations. They can follow up online to see the status of their registration, or they can call the county office. So go on, Darlene. We should identify ourselves, and we do, because we have a tablecloth that says League of Women Voters, and we have a pin that you can wear that says, as Darlene is holding it up, that you're a member of the League of Women Voters, so that they know that I think the second bullet is very important, because I did training for another organization, and I learned from them, they had done these before, that what they did was take the name and the address of the people to send them postcards to remind them, okay, you're registered, voting is next week, make sure you go to the polls. That's a big no-no. Unless you have permission of the person to use any of their information for any other purpose. You shouldn't be copying down the names and addresses. We have for school registrations, we do have a piece of paper that they can fill out, and we ask them, would you like us to send you a text or an email close to the voting day? And they can say nah, or they can fill it out. But we're asking them and they're filling it out. We're not using their voter registration. This is personal information, and we're not to use it for any other purpose. I think that's an important point to keep in mind. Again, we talked about this, so we can move on past this one. You know, troubleshooting. If an application is incomplete, you can fill in the information only with the applicant's permission. So that's why you should check it before they leave. And what you will find, particularly at Capona, is people tend to be kind of in a hurry. And you're saying, you know, just please wait. It'll only take a couple seconds till I look at the form. But if they say, yeah, fine, you know, put that information in, you must again sign section 10 saying that you did complete part of this. If you can't get their permission, do not complete the form. Submit the incomplete form. Again, hopefully they put a phone number on, and the Election Bureau will handle the problem that the information is incomplete. They will attempt to contact them, but it's certainly going to delay their being able to get registered. Go on. Go ahead. Again, you're trying to review it. If they're using the online system, it will not let them register if they have not filled in everything that needed to be filled in. So be aware of that. Now you're going to be working over Capona. If I was, because you sometimes have people who say, well, I really don't know if I'm registered. And if it was during the week, I'd call the county election office, turn the phone over to them and say, you talk to them, find out if you're registered, and let them do that. But you're going to be, if you're Capona, you're going to be working a weekend, and they're not open. So you can't do that. So what you can do is give the county's phone number to the person and tell them to check, or tell them to go online to try and find out. Again, if you have concerns or issues, the one thing, if you do schools, that I found with schools, and it disturbed me a little bit, is there is a field that asks for your municipality. You would be amazed how many people do not know what the word municipality means, and they don't know what municipality they're in. And certainly part of the problem is if their address is Harrisburg, you don't know what municipality they're in. They could be in Harrisburg City, they could be in Susquehanna Township, they could be in Lower Paxton. So if they do not know that municipality, leave that blank. I've been told by the Dauphin County Director of Elections, leave it blank, because when they enter them in the system, they'll be able to tell what municipality they're in, rather than they're putting something wrong down or not understanding what it is. Certainly, if you have your phone, you can Google and find out what municipality they're in to help them do that, because you can try and explain to them, but a lot of people still are not clear what municipality means or which one they happen to live in. So go on. Again, you can track your registration online. Again, they send it out 2 to 3 weeks afterwards. And if you do not receive that voter registration card, contact the county to make sure. So go ahead, pass the next title and on to the next subject. Disabilities. There is no competency requirement in Pennsylvania. That means you do not have to be able to read English or, be able to hear or be able to walk into the polling place. If they have a disability, they may register and vote, and voters with disabilities may experience obstacles to voting. There is a place on the application where they can mark that they will need assistance at the polls. And they would need to mark that to make the county aware that they may need assistance. Box 13 on the registration application is where they would do that. And if you're not aware, depending on my problem, I can have somebody go with me into the voting booth. If I have a need and they are aware that I'm going to need somebody to accompany me to the place. So go on to the next one. Criminal records. A lot of people are not aware of this because each state decides whether criminals, people convicted of whatever, are allowed to vote. And Pennsylvania is one of the few that allow incarcerated people to vote. However, if you are incarcerated on a felony charge, you cannot vote. If you're in a halfway house or other alternative kind of facility on a pre-release program, but you were convicted of a felony and will not be released before the next election, you still cannot vote. But if you were convicted of a violation of the Pennsylvania Election Code within the last 4 years, you too cannot vote. So these are the only criminals, if you will, who cannot vote until they have either been totally released. Once, if I have a felony conviction and I'm out now, I can vote. I can register to vote. Some states do not allow that. We do. So go on to the next screen.
I just wanted to mention that
Yes.
Roy Givler has joined the group.
Oh, hello, Roy.
Hello there.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I just got in the door.
Well, you're a busy man. You're a busy man. Probably most that we've gone through already, Roy, because we talked about you have to be 18 by election day, and you can do it online, you can do it via paper. But now we're talking about specific types of people and whether they can vote or not. So if you have a criminal record, yes, you can vote in Pennsylvania. Again, some states would not. If you are in jail, and a lot of people are in jail and haven't been convicted of anything yet, they're there either because they can't make bail or they have been remanded for whatever reason. People think they may be a flight risk, or they're incarcerated for a misdemeanor, not a felony. Felony people can't vote. Or they're on parole or probation, even if they're in a halfway house. These people may vote in Pennsylvania and they can be registered. So if you get people coming to the table and their brother, sister, uncle, aunt, whatever is in prison and they're asking you about it, yes, give them an application to see that that person gets it and can complete it and register to vote, assuming they meet the criteria, they're the right age and they're a citizen, blah, blah, blah. So if you have a criminal record, if you are incarcerated, and again, that's even if you're out on a work release program and you're eligible to vote, you do not use the prison address. Very, 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 very important. You must use the most recent address that you had as your resident. Or you can use the address where you're going to be living when you do get out of prison or get out of the halfway house. The prison that they are in may be used as a mailing address because there's another space on the form. Is your mailing address different than your voting address? And they can put that in there. And if you want to see more information, obviously at the state website, it talks about that. This is very important because, and it was a big issue when they were drawing districts. They will have to vote absentee ballot because they're in prison or in a halfway house. They are not going to get out of prison to go to their home resident to vote. So they will vote by absentee. So they must apply for an absentee ballot in order to vote as well. The big discussion on redistricting with this was prior to the latest redistricting, they were counting these criminals in the area where their prison was located. And that would increase the population in some counties, but they couldn't vote in that county. They had to vote if they were in Harrisburg, but they were imprisoned in Somerset. They were being counted in Somerset, but they would be voting in Harrisburg. So there was a large push from Fair Districts, part of the League of Women Voters, to say that's wrong. They need to be counted in the place so that, because that's how representation is decided. If this county has a large population, they're going to get a representative to the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. But if you take away all of those prison inmates, their population may not be large enough for that. So this is an important piece that a lot of people do not understand in having these people register to vote. So go on, Darlene.
And Shirley,
Yes.
I know that the redistricting commission that does for the federal,
Yes,
they
changed this.
They changed,
Yes,
but the one that deals with state did not change.
did not change this
No.
because that was done by the legislature and then by the
Correct.
court. Yeah. And it's unfortunate. I think it's unfortunate that they didn't count them where, I mean, you're requiring them to vote somewhere else. So they're voting for the people in some other place. They're not voting for the people in the prison location. Yeah. So, if they have limited English, certainly, and I don't know that we've done this, getting multilingual people to help them. But the registration application online is available in English and Spanish. And we normally at our registration tables have Spanish copies of the paper form as well as English. They are available in other languages, Spanish, Chinese, and Vietnamese. If you go to the website, I don't know that the forms are there, but you can request one in Spanish, Chinese, or Vietnamese. If you have yet another language than these, you can contact the Department of State for help in getting another language at no cost to you, obviously. So if someone is asking about that kind of thing, yes, we can get them those kind of forms. They can get themselves those kind of forms if they need them. High school students, if you're going to be part of our group that goes out and tries to register high school students, there are a lot of obstacles with high school students. They seem to think the biggest one is getting them to understand their eligibility. We talked about this a little earlier. They don't have to be 18 the day you're there registering them, but they need to be 18 on or before the date of the next election. And I know that we had previously, we put posters out in the schools to say we're coming on such and such a date. And normally it has said you must be 18 on or before November 8th, 2022. That should be easy enough for anybody to understand. Oh, my birthday is November 9th. Well, too bad, you can't register. If we specifically say that you ask them that. And special elections can affect the registration cutoff date. So I'm not aware that there have been any special elections recently, but special elections are held if somebody is in office, is a state senator and passes away. We may have a special election to replace him until such time as the normal election, and he'll fill that unexpired term. So if you have a special election and it's going to be held February 22nd, well, then the student needs to be 18 before February 22nd. So it affects it that way. High school students, also other things. When we advertise our drive, we remind them to bring their driver's license, and you'd be surprised how that doesn't matter. They still forget to bring them. And they, lots of times I've had the kids, call mom, what's the last 4 digits of my social security number? So, they have ways of doing that, or short of that. Again, I would say, here, take the form, take it home. We'll fill out everything but that, and then you can fill it in and you can mail it in. If they have any questions, and again, to me, their biggest question is, what's my municipality? The other thing on the form, and this doesn't just apply to high school students, this applies to everyone. You must check a box in what party do I want to register for? And you may get questions like, what party should I register for? And my answer always is, I can't help you with that. I can't guide you on that. If you want to take the form home, if you want to Google the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, the Libertarian Party, see what they have to say, decide which it is. A lot of students want to go independent because they think they're independent. So it's important to explain to people who mark independent, as I'm sure you're aware, they can't vote in the primary unless there is a question on the ballot. We are a closed primary state, and Libertarians and Green Party people can't vote then either. Only the Democrats and the Republicans can vote in our primary. And you can only vote as you're registered. If you're a registered Democrat, you can only vote for the Democrats. If you're a registered Republican. So helping them to understand that, helping them to understand, particularly if you're doing this in the spring, that if they do want to vote in the primary, then register as a Republican or a Democrat. Day after that, you can change your registration and go independent, and you'll be able to vote in November if it means that much to you, if that's important to you. The other thing that I find is a lot of people, independents, don't understand that if there is a question on the ballot, because a lot of people don't know that there's going to be a question on the ballot. It's advertised, they're required to advertise things like that, but it's not, a lot of people aren't aware that that is happening, and you can go and vote, but only vote on the question. So that's an important thing if you're working with these young people and they are quick to mark independent or libertarian or green, that or other, I think, is the other box that you can mark. Yeah.
Shirley, Michelle has her
Yes.
hand up, and I think,
Yes, Michelle.
I think it's important.
We had a situation at the Pride event with a young person who registered to vote, and it slipped by us. But the choices for party are Democrat, Republican, Green, Libertarian, none, or other. And then next to other, there's a blank line. So she checked other, but then didn't fill anything in. She's young. She really didn't know
What she was doing. I
She
just want to
didn't.
be something other than those, right?
And she was advised to check one of the other ones, but she left the line blank. And we brought it to the election board and they said, we can't accept this because if you check other, then they have to print in there what other party.
Party
are they ref-
means, yes. That's an excellent point, yes. And
Her phone number and email were on.
yes, and
Well-
you're saying independent isn't one of the choices. It
It
is.
is that, no,
Yeah.
I'm looking right at the form
Yeah,
right now.
thank you.
and-
Good.
Yep, and it's Democrat, Republican, Green, Libertarian, none. And then then it says next to that, no affiliation. And then on the line underneath it, there is that word other.
Other,
So it
and
could
they
really,
need to put something there.
Yeah.
Yes,
or choose something on the above line. Do
on
you
the
know what I
above
mean?
lines.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So,
And you know, and it's, I think that's an excellent point. Because I don't know that I ever had anybody check others, so we haven't had that issue. But that's good that everybody understands that, and again, talks to them and says, you know, you're gonna need to put something there, because there are a ton of other kind of parties, I think, like Freedom something or the other, or some kind of thing like that, who normally you do not see candidates from those parties, even in the general election, but they are around. So yes, if you can steer them away from doing that, because I'm pretty certain they don't know any other name to fill in that blank.
right.
Yeah. And choosing none would probably say the same kind of thing. I don't want to be affiliated with any of these people. Yeah. Thank you. Good point. Moving on, college students, there's an interesting thing. They have two options about where to register to vote. They can register where they attend college with an off-campus or a campus address, or they can register at their prior home address and either come home or get an absentee ballot while they are away. We do hack. We've done Central Penn too, so we've done college kind of things. There was some concern if they are out of state, they're going to University of Maryland maybe, or something like that. There was some concern that if they register in Maryland then, because that's where they're living, does it affect their financial aid they're getting from the state, if they are in fact getting any financial aid? And I don't know that I ever heard the answer to that, but they should probably ascertain that ahead of time, but they can register either place. If they're within Pennsylvania, it's not an issue. They can register at their college location if they wish. So go on, Darlene.
Mhm.
Thank you. So the absentee ballots, again, this is what I had just said, that they need to submit an application to the appropriate county office. If they're attending Penn State, but list their address as Berks County, the application must be sent to Berks County, not Center County. Even though, you know, if they're going to Penn State and they list their resident as Berks, they are going to be registering in Berks County. If they list their address as Penn State, then they are, you know, they are going to, in my mind, it's going to go to Center County. So I think that's what they're trying to say here, but I'm not sure. If they're attending Penn State, but list their address as Berks, they're going to get registered in Berks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, so they both say that. And then if the student above registers to vote in Berks County, they may only vote in Berks County or by mail-in ballot. Because, you know, I assume, now see, I'm not clear on this one now, because they make it sound like if they list their resident as Berks County, they have to send it to Berks, but that it sounds like they can still register to vote in Center. And that doesn't make sense. If they put their resident address as Berks, they're going to have to vote in Berks. Isn't that how you interpret it,
I'm-
Darlene?
Oh, no, I'm saying that if they register to vote in Berks County, they may only vote in Berks County or by mail-in ballot.
Right, but the one above it where it says they're attending Penn State, but they list their resident as Berks, that kind of makes it sound like they can list their residents as Berks, but still vote in Center County. That's not true, is it? They're going to vote where their residence is.
Can I comment as a?
Yes, please.
an
Thank you,
inspector
Roy.
of elections on that?
Yes, thank you.
What would happen is if they walked into Center County, they would only be able to vote on it would be, first of all, they would treat it as a, trying to think what they call that type of, it's a,
Provisional ballot.
yeah, it would be, they would get a provisional ballot, and only what they voted for that would still be applicable to Berks would count. So essentially, you know, if it was an election like where it was governor on down the list,
Right,
the only thing that might be in common might be the governor and maybe the
Lieutenant Governor.
Yeah, lieutenant governor, and maybe some of the the top state level offices, and if they
Right.
had, let's say, a U.S. senator on the ballot. So all that stuff would be counted, but everything else would be thrown out on it. And so that would be the thing about it. But so, you know,
But they, oh, I'm sorry, Roy.
but you run across that from, but the problem is it's not really set up to do county to county,
No,
the whole thing. I'm not sure how it would get handled once it got to the county level, but my understanding is it sort of gets kicked up the ladder, if you want to say.
right. But I'm troubled by how this is written, because if I'm attending Penn State and I want to vote at Penn State, I should list my Penn State address. And then I can vote in Center County. Does that sound right to you, Roy? I know you've worked the polls. That seems to me, but this is making it sound like I'm going to Penn State, but I put my residence as Berks. Well, then I think I have to vote in Berks, but maybe
Well,
yeah.
It's whatever address that you register.
Register at, yes.
at.
That's,
So
yeah,
that's
to me, this is even confusing how they've written this, but hopefully all of you are not confused if you're working with college students, to help them understand that they do have a choice to register using their college address or their home address. And they either go home then to vote if they do that, or they get an absentee ballot to vote. And I lost my person that's going to move me to the next screen. What happened to you?
Now, Shirley, I wanted to show,
Oh,
we have this, handout, Your Choice, Your Voice, which goes through all of that that we can hand to people who are college students.
well, that and if you're doing high schools, they are probably, particularly in the spring, for the general election, they're not going to be potentially where they have now registered to vote. So if you're doing high schools in the spring, they may register to vote. They're using their home address. They'll go to the primary, assuming they're Republican or Democrat. And then they can decide before the general election whether they want to change that or simply request a mail-in ballot. So the brochure that Darlene was holding talks about that kind of stuff to help those. That's why we try and make sure they pick one up and keep our fingers crossed that they actually read it. This is, oh, I'm sorry, someone wanted to say something. No? Yes, okay. This is talking about registering to vote in Pennsylvania does not affect their financial aid. That is, if they are voting in Pennsylvania. What I'm not clear about is if they register out of state because they're going to school out of state. We don't think it does. It doesn't affect their status as a dependent on their parents' taxes. You know, if I register at Penn State, you know, my parents are still going to claim me as a dependent. Your tuition status, being deemed out of state for tuition purposes, does not prevent them from choosing to register and vote in Pennsylvania. So they're a New Jersey student going to Penn State. Yes, they can register in Penn State and vote in Pennsylvania, not a problem. And driver's license registering to vote does not invalidate their out-of-state license. That seems, you know, kind of intuitive that it wouldn't do that. So go on, Darlene. Questions related to this guide, you can go to the Department of State at that address or call them and with questions, or our county, Dauphin County anyway, election office, Jerry Fieser, is just wonderful to deal with. And I'm looking for a piece of paper, which I'm not going to find quickly. If you have questions about various things, he is good to answer them. What I was looking for, Darlene, Jerry had sent us that piece of paper, and I wanted to see if this missed anything that was on Jerry's, but of course I can't find that piece of paper.
Oh, well, I have the piece of paper that Jerry Fieser sent
Yes,
us,
yes.
and we will have it right at the desk.
At the desk where
Oh,
people are registering.
Yeah,
'Cause
so
he-
it's another, just, it goes over just about many of the
Everything that was
things
here.
we talked
Yes,
about, but
yes.
it's right there.
It's
And I
there.
can
Yeah,
stop
if,
that
yeah,
share.
that's good. Okay.
And to see each other better.
Yes, thank you. So do you have any questions of something you perhaps experienced, like Michelle was able to share that thing that will help us know something that I was not aware of even?
Well, actually, it was me who took that registration.
Oh,
I
okay.
watched the girl do it. And I was just so sure that the county would accept it anyway.
Yes, I would too. Mhm.
And I was just I was dumbstruck that they said, nope, we can't take this. And so anyway, I called the woman, I emailed her, I sent the thing back to her. I hope she eventually.
You audited and took care of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I could not even just making that kind of a little change. I could not do that.
No, of course
without
not.
her permission.
Not without her permission. And then certainly when she gets her registration card and has her registered as none, and she's gonna go, well, that's not what I did. You'd be ugly.
Yeah.
But it because I, like you, assumed that it would be okay, it would be considered like none if I marked the other, but they are actually thinking that you have another party that's not listed that you want to be affiliated with. But
Could have written in Bugs Bunny and it would be fine.
Don't tell people that. It's like write in votes, put Mickey Mouse. No, because my husband in our township, we lived in Susquehanna Township, and for committee people, you need X number of committee people, and there weren't that many names listed. So he wrote his name in, being funny. And as it turns out, he and another guy were the only two people that wrote their names in. So they wrote to them. And so they each got one vote in the township, nobody else, and we need to fill this other seat. And so they invited them to come to a meeting, and they were going to draw names out of a hat to decide which of the two of them would get that committee seat. And of course, my husband never went to the meeting, so the other guy got it because he didn't really want to be on the committee. He just thought, oh, I'll write my own name in. And, this is serious stuff. This is not Mickey Mouse for president kind of thing. But, that doesn't stop people from thinking they're clever and doing that kind of stuff. So did we, you know, again, a lot you already knew. Did we cover what you were expecting? Is there something that concerns you? And understand, as happened with Darlene and this other, more than likely, sometime as you're doing this, something will come up that you're going, whoa, she didn't tell me about this. And, you know,
Well, the good thing is that on each of these shifts at Capona and always at schools, we have more than one person, and so you can check things out.
with someone else, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm, mhm.
and the fact that you can, you know, like with someone wanting to know whether they are registered, they can look on the automated system and find out.
And find out. Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
And-
and
And people can actually use their telephones if, now, I
to log into the
I really
website.
can't see well enough to, you know, get all those little numbers in, but kids can actually do their registration on their
On their
telephone.
phone. Yes, they can. And they can do that while they're with you and ask you questions as they're doing it, which is perfectly fine. Yes. The other, in my opinion, perfectly acceptable answer is, I really don't know the answer to that.
Oh, sure.
So perhaps you, again, want to take the application with you. And, you know, if you like, we'll take your phone number, we'll try and get an answer and we'll call you. Or you can call the county election office, ask them the question and get it right from the horse's mouth. But, you know, it's perfectly all right to admit that, you know, because people can come up with the strangest questions sometimes.
And I try to make sure that there are stamps always. And
Yes.
if I give somebody a paper application, I put a stamp on it
Mhm.
just to make sure that that little thing doesn't stop them from
Perfect.
sending their application.
Yeah, excellent, excellent thing. And the other thing, when you're at Capona, and depending on what school you go to, particularly I'm thinking of Bishop and Devitt, although we've been at Trinity also. Trinity's in Cumberland County, so most of those are going to go to Cumberland County, but not all the students that go to Trinity live in Cumberland County. They may be in York County, they may be in Dauphin County, and going to Trinity because they choose to go to that school. So you know, the things you may have to direct them to a different election bureau other than Dauphin or county when particularly at Capona, because you're going to get people from the West Shore.
Well,
coming.
we can write in.
Yeah. Mhm, mhm.
Kristen and Amber, I'm just wondering if you have any questions or comments.
It was very helpful. Thank you very much. I guess I'm just trying to picture how it'll go, because I know you said we can't sway people to sign up for a certain party. Do we sway people to register? Like, hello, are you registered to vote? Like as they're walking by?
Sure.
Oh, yes.
And if they say yes, then you just give them a thumbs up and they keep going. If they say no, then we can say, would you like a registration paper? Or would you like some information?
Absolutely.
Okay, okay.
Absolutely. Because you may not have been on when I told my favorite story. We were in Lemoyne at whatever thing they were having in the park, and I did that because people will look at you, but they don't want to look at you because you might start talking to them. But and I said to this woman, "Are you registered?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Well, come on over here. I'll register you to vote." And she said to me, "No, my husband does the voting for our family." Yeah. And so, you know, what are you going to do? Murder is still illegal. I couldn't kill her. You know, yes, but you do, because you're going to see people walking by and, you know, ask them and they'll say yes, or they'll lie to you and say yes, just to avoid you. But no, we certainly want to try and do that, encourage them to come over. But, you know, once they have come over, you're just helping them fill it out and not trying to influence, you know, what they're choosing as their party. I mean, I did a school, we did it on the very last day that you could register to vote. And I took them down to Dauphin County thing. And I got a call from the school the next day saying that they had a call from a parent and their son registered as whichever,
Mhm.
Democrat. And they shouldn't. They were going to change to Republican. And I said, well, it's too late now.
Mhm.
But day after the election, the child can change to a different party. I've been at Hack where this guy came up and wanted to change. We didn't talk about that. People can change their party, change their address on the applications. They just check a different box. Rather than do registration, they check a change of address or whatever, and they're still filling in everything. But if it was a change of address, they would have to put the old address down in the appropriate boxes and then the new address there. But he came up and he said, I moved out of my mother's house, so I want to change my party affiliation. So apparently while he was living with mom, he had to be something. But now that he was by himself, he wanted to be something else. So it's you get a lot of interesting things that way. But you may have that too, that people are saying they want to, and for the general election, they really don't have to change party.
Oh, right,
Because they can vote any way they want during the general election.
right.
They may not realize that, and they think, well, I need to change because I want
see.
to make sure that, you know, the chocolate cookie party gets into office. But
Amber, how about you?
I beg your pardon?
I'm just wondering if you had any questions or.
If I have questions,
Mhm.
no. I'm trying to think, do I have any questions? No, I don't have any questions.
No, I'm asking Amber.
Oh, Amber. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know who you were asking. I'm sorry. Okay.
I think I get it. I like to look things over a little bit, you know, and study them before I. So I'll probably have questions once I do that.
Yes, and Amber, this recording I will put up on the league website, but also the information that Shirley's been going through is on the Department of State website. So,
And again, it may look slightly different because Carol modified this. I'm not sure what she removed and or added, but but it would be there. And the other thing, as Darlene said, there will be other people there who probably have done this before, if you're not certain, because after you do one or two, it's kind of like, okay, you know, this is no big deal.
Okay.
I have a stupid question.
There are no stupid questions. Oh, I'm sorry. Go
well,
ahead.
where is going the registration table going to be at Capona? Capona is a pretty big event. I have no clue.
It is. Do you know, Darlene?
not at this moment, we do not. We will be with Fair Districts, and Fair Districts has a bright yellow canopy. I am hoping that in the course of this coming week, we will get an address, a physical location to point you to, and it's certainly, well, I'm there the first thing on Saturday morning, so I'll send out to everybody. When I find it, I'll tell you where it is.
Oh, perfect,
That sounds great.
Okay.
perfect.
Well, thanks everybody for
Thank
coming.
you very much.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Shirley.
And thank you all for volunteering to do this. It's
I'm
an
looking forward to it.
extremely important thing, and we value you for giving us your time. to make sure people get registered to vote. Very important election coming up in November. Okay,
Okay,
good.
thank
All right,
you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, 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 bye. I'm leaving.